Hi everybody! I welcome you to J Palace Yamingong. My name is Eunice, but you can call me Yaya. And today we're talking about Netflix's new movie, Over the Moon. I have my own bungee, and let's get started. This video contains spoilers. Click away now if you haven't seen the movie or don't want to have it spoiled. When the trailer first dropped in June, I hated it. Around this time was when rumors of the live-action Mulan movie was circulating. We had already gotten the first trailer, and I was so angry with how inaccurate it was. So by the time this trailer came out, I was already jaded. It didn't help that the trailer made it very unclear on what the premise of the movie was about. From the trailer, it looked like FeiFei was trying to reunite her dead mom and her dad by trying to find Chang'e and prove that she was real. Overall, it left me confused and annoyed. I thought it was going to be another American movie that basically ruins a Chinese myth for the sake of representation. I have never been so happy to be wrong. While I can't speak for every Chinese person out there, I found this movie to be a good representation of Chinese culture, and we see it throughout the film. And opposed to what I thought in the beginning, the movie takes place in China and not the United States. But one scene that really stood out to me was in the beginning during the Mid-Autumn Festival dinner scene with the family. We see the family come together to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival 4 years after the passing of FeiFei's mother, and before us is a table full of food. In most Hollywood movies that portray Chinese meals, we have the generic dishes, fried rice, 炒面, dumplings, various veggies, and so on. And these are not dishes that Chinese families will eat during celebration dinners. If anything, all these dishes are more Cantonese. So to see a table full of food that I can recognize is awesome because these are actually food that I eat with my family. There is a dish with bok choy and mushroom. Funny story, I actually call bok choy dodoloryusan or Totoro umbrellas because as a kid I didn't exactly like to eat veggies. And to get me to eat veggies, my mom had to associate vegetables with cartoons that I liked to watch as a kid. And to get me to eat bok choy, she told me that bok choys were the leaf that Totoro was using as an umbrella in the movie. And to this day, I still call bok choys dodoloryusan. For the meat dishes, we have what looks like braised pork belly, 三层肉 or 控肉, and meatballs, which is known as 狮子头, which translates to lion heads. And these dishes are delicious, especially braised pork belly. When you get it to the point that it melts in your mouth, oh my god, that is amazing. And we also have this dish that kind of either looks like egg rolls or fried tofu skin. And if it's egg rolls, I'm really happy that they went with a specific style instead of the normal ones you see at Chinese takeout. On the table, we also see dougan, known as dry-aged tofu, 莲藕, which are lotus roots, and cucumbers pickled in vinegar and soy sauce as the side dishes. We also see a whole steamed fish and shrimp with peas as the seafood dishes. I love seeing the whole steamed fish because not only is this my favorite dish, but this is also a dish we never usually see in TV shows or movies. Whole steamed fish is a very integral part of Chinese celebration dinners, which leads me to believe that the creators of this movie well-researched and understand what goes into a traditional celebration dinner. And it's not just the food. Seeing how the family interacted with each other in this scene, I was able to really relate. Again, I'm going to compare this movie to other media, because usually when we see depictions of Chinese family, it's not flattering. It's usually very exaggerated or stereotyped. In Over the Moon, the family banter was really realistic. The dynamic that they have with each other is something that I would see at my own dinner table. And I legit teared up because FeiFei's grandfather reminded me of my own. And it's just little things throughout the film that show that they well researched the culture, such as the scene where FeiFei takes a Polaroid of the family buying mooncakes. Instead of saying cheese, they said 茄子, which means eggplant. And China doesn't say cheese like we do, they do say 茄子. And this is such a small thing, but it shows that they put so much thought. And the scene that cracked me up was the scene where you see people line dancing in the park. I'm not joking. If you don't see people line dancing in the park or old grandparents doing Tai Chi or exercising in the morning, you don't live in a real Chinese community. Because I am not joking, I'm pretty sure one day I'm gonna be one of those old people doing Tai Chi in the morning. Let's talk about the story aspect of the film. Over the Moon is based on the myth Chang'e Ben Yue, which is the origin myth of Chang'e, the moon goddess. The movie chose to go with a more romanticized version of the myth, where Chang'e had to hide the immortality pills in her mouth in order to prevent them from being stolen. Unfortunately, this resulted in her being ripped away from Huoyi, her husband, as she ascended to the moon and he was left behind on Earth. Other than the romantic adaptation, there are many other different versions of this myth. In one version, Chang'e is selfish and steals the pills for herself in order to become immortal. Another version is that Huoyi becomes a tyrant, and Chang'e, fearing how much worse he can get when he becomes immortal, she takes the pills for herself in order to spare the citizens from his tyranny and escapes to the moon. And while I'm not surprised that they chose the more romantic version, I appreciate how they tied it in with the film's story. And I just want to add that I love that they included the myth 天狗食月 or 天狗 eating the moon. In this myth, you have a dog nibbling away at the moon in order to explain the moon's phases. And this is not a very well-known myth, so the addition is so cute. The only thing I wish that they changed was that they translated Tiango into heavenly dog instead of space dog. I just feel that the storytelling of this film is just simply gorgeous. We have the main character, FeiFei, still mourning the loss of her mother, but unable to accept that her father is moving on. This idea of grief and loss and acceptance is something that I feel everyone can relate to. Not only was this movie well researched, but it was so well thought out. Throughout the film, you have a series of symbols used, but the thing is, they're so easily overlooked. To a viewer who don't know the deeper meaning behind them, they just look aesthetically pleasing. And to me, that just emphasizes how much thought that they put into this movie. In the beginning, where FeiFei is inspired to build a rocket to the moon, we have a scene where she comes across Bungie, her rabbit, with a crane. As I said earlier, if you don't know the meaning behind it, a crane just looks beautiful and graceful. However, in Chinese culture, cranes are associated with longevity. This is most likely because cranes have a lifespan of 20 to 30 years. Cranes also play an interesting role in Chinese mythology. It is said that when a xian or immortal transforms, they transform into cranes, which also leads me to believe that the crane in the movie is actually Chang'e transformed. Originally, I thought the crane was FeiFei's mother because of the association to longevity. But in the ending scene where she sees the crane again, both FeiFei and this crane share this look of understanding before the crane flies off. When the crane flies off, it brushes against her hair and flies to the moon, which cements my conviction that this is Chang'e instead. Another character in Over the Moon is Chin, FeiFei's eventual stepbrother, and his pet frog. I don't think that the frog was a randomly chosen animal. Instead, I think it may be associated with an ancient myth, a myth that most people don't talk about in the modern times. In Chu Ci, which is a series of poems from the Warring States era, we have a poem that talks about how there's both a rabbit and a toad pounding herbs on the moon for the immortals. And there are a series of smaller symbolisms throughout the film, like FeiFei. Fei means fly in Mandarin, which is a reference to her flying to the moon. We also have Bungie. Bungie is a white rabbit because while in the movie they made the jade rabbit green to match the color of jade, the moon rabbit in mythology is actually all white. Another one is that when her mother died, they sent a lotus down the river. This is an actual tradition that we have in Chinese culture because sending a lotus down the river is supposed to help guide lost souls. And with all of these small symbolisms, it just makes me so happy because it just further proves that they put so much thinking into this movie. As a designer, my favorite part of the film was costume designs. I adore how traditional yet modern Chang'e's outfits are throughout the film. And I'm not surprised because the designer that they got to design these garments is the renowned Gobi. I love her work and she is such an inspiration. Gobi is known to create gorgeous, beautiful designs that integrate traditional Chinese styles. And this is very much shown in all of Chang'e's wardrobe. Chang'e's outfits consist of her performance outfit we see in Ultra Luminary, the iconic dramatic red robe we saw in all the trailers and posters, her traditional green robe, her ping pong outfit, and a white robe during her morning scene. I adore the red robe. It is intricate and the motifs are absolutely gorgeous. This is something that I wish I could wear in my lifetime. And I know that this is the iconic outfit for the film. My favorite is still the green outfit she wears where she is briefly reunited with Hou-yi. It makes her look so gentle. And her headdress matching with the color and the cut of this outfit, overall I just love every aspect of it. The other outfit that gave me a good chuckle was the ping pong outfit. I love that it's so modern, but it has the traditional 大袖 or long sleeves. And this is definitely an outfit that I wish I could wear all the time while I'm exercising. The only thing is that they obviously based a lot of these designs on the Tang Dynasty. And while it doesn't make it any less gorgeous, it's becoming predictable. Everyone always chooses the Tang Dynasty. And I've mentioned in my previous videos that designers like to choose the Tang Dynasty because it's a dynasty of extravagance. This was the dynasty where clothing was definitely more colorful and had more style. But I just want to see other dynasties showcased. And this is something that I've noticed, and it's becoming to a point that a lot of media and Western culture only know Chinese clothes either based on the qipao of the Qing dynasty or the traditional styles of the Tang dynasty, while there's so many other great styles of other dynasties. And I wish that they were able to showcase that, especially with such an amazing Chinese designer. I love this movie, but there are things that I wish that they did do a little bit different. Looking at the voice actors, I noticed that it was more of a Korean cast as opposed to a Chinese cast. You have John Cho as Baba, Ken Jeong as Gobi, Ruthie Ann Miles as Mama, and Sandra Oh as Zhong Ahyi, and these are Korean actors. Of all the characters, only 3 have Chinese voice actors, which are Phillipa Soo as Chang'e, Cathy Ang as FeiFei, and Robert Chu as Chin. While I love the representation of the film, I would love to have seen the representation reflected onto the cast as well. I'm not saying that the cast did a bad job because they're not Chinese. They did an amazing job, but I wish that this opportunity could have been given to a lot of other talented Chinese voice actors. Another big thing was that I sometimes felt that the English version was a little bit weird and awkward. So I watched this movie twice. I watched it first in English and the second time in Mandarin. And while the English does do a good job, I wish that they kept some of the lines from the Mandarin version. One example is Moonmush. It seems like FeiFei and her dad have an inside joke. He will ask her, "Oh, what do you think the jade rabbit is making?" And she responds, "Moonmush." While in Mandarin, she responds, "Mooncakes," because the moon is like a giant egg yolk. And while this may have been lost on some foreign viewers, but with an amount of work that they already did to make this movie culturally accurate, I feel like they should have kept this line. Because in Chinese culture, we do associate the moon with the salted egg yolk in mooncake. And I just feel like they should have kept this line, but translated into English. Another example is that after FeiFei is finished with her adventures on the moon, she is once again celebrating the Mid-Autumn Festival with her family the next year. In this scene, Zhong Ahyi tells FeiFei that the Mid-Autumn Festival is her favorite night, and that her night-night tells her that the circle of a mooncake is symbolism for a family coming together. In the Mandarin version, FeiFei tells Zhong Ahyi that she likes her jade pendant, and Zhong Ahyi tells her that, oh, in her hometown there is a myth how it's associated with Hou Yi. While I'm glad that they went with a more cultural line in English, I personally felt that they should have kept the Mandarin line because it flows better with the story overall. Everything else were small details, like why did FeiFei bring the mooncake that Zhong Ahyi made instead of her mother's recipe instead? Why was the jade piece in the mooncake? Was it Zhong Ahyi that put the piece in, or was it Chin that was trying to prank his future sister? These are just small things that I felt they should have answered it better or made it a little bit more cohesive. One last thing is that I did not feel that the bunny romance in the movie was needed. I understand that her letting Bungie stay on the moon with Jade was symbolism of her being able to let go and accept her mother's passing, but personally, I just feel like the bunny romance was a little bit out there. Other than these small details, I absolutely love this movie, especially the contrast between traditional and contemporary imagery. Throughout the whole film, you see both traditional and modern architecture. In the song Fly Away, where she is riding through the fields, you see in the midground a traditional archway, and in the background, the magnetic levitation railway. And this whole idea can be seen throughout the whole movie. FeiFei's village or city is actually quite traditional. You actually have a pagoda overlooking the whole city. And while you expected Chang'e's palace to look traditional and ancient, but instead it is modern and contemporary. And this is a very good reflection of Chinese culture, that we both embrace our history as well as embracing technology. And again, this is also a good lesson. You keep what is good, but you also accept what is new and what can change. All in all, this movie had me crying hysterically. I was sobbing throughout many of the scenes. I understand losing someone really dear to you. I lost my grandfather a couple years ago. He was my light, and he was the person I looked up to, which had me bawling throughout basically the whole movie. So it was definitely an emotional trip. One last thing I would like to add is that I've been seeing a lot of criticism for this movie because the director and screenwriter were not Chinese. Normally, that would irk me as well, but not with this film. Normally, with a non-Chinese director, producer, or screenwriter, you kind of get something that is over-exaggerated or insultingly stereotyped, like Disney's live-action Mulan. However, it did not happen with this film. This film was well-researched and well thought out. I couldn't have asked for a better representation. If anything, Over the Moon reminded me of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Everything was respectfully done. The thing is, it all boils down to respect. They respected our culture enough to do their homework. And there's no weird chi-based power that only boys could have. Mulan. Overall, this was an amazing movie, and I highly recommend everyone give it a try if you can. The storytelling is beautiful, the soundtrack is addictive, and everyone is so talented. And as a Taiwanese Chinese American, it really spoke to me because I was so happy to see a movie give proper representation to everything I grew up with. I hope you enjoyed my review of Over the Moon from Netflix, and I do have a more in-depth video about the Mid-Autumn Moon Festival, so definitely check it out if you're interested in its tradition and its history. And I would also love to hear on what you guys think about Over the Moon. What was your favorite part? Did you like it? What are some things that you wish they did differently? Leave a comment down below because I would love to hear everything you guys have to say. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like or subscribe to Jade Palace Yamingong. I would very much appreciate it. And until next time, 再见啦，拜拜。